Heyo, welcome to StarCraft Studio. Today we're making this design that I've hyped up for a while for my Halloween witch doll. She's super cute and I'm super happy with her. Here are a bunch of little doodads and things I used to inspire me for this doll. It's the reason I forced myself to make this doll even though depression has been kicking my butt. But she's finished, I made her. Also, I used this head and body combination, this Bunny Blanc doll that I got in a set that's headless, and then this head that I painted a while ago for a giveaway doll that I never ended up making. I really feel really guilty about that, but I got to use the head for this one, and she is 9 kinds of adorable, and I'm really excited to show you the process of how she was made. Let's get started. First, I used this really beautiful floral lace to make her coat, paired with this orange ribbon. Any other questions? Let's move on. I'm kidding. So the first step is to fold over the fabric to the length you want. I take the extra step to pin it just in case, because fabric slides. You should always pin stuff if you're layering it, because otherwise you're in trouble. And then mark where you want it to end on the length, because you can make it a short sleeve, you can make it long sleeve, whatever you want to do. Then, of course, you cut it out. And then you're gonna sew it. You can do it by hand, but I do it on my sewing machine because I have one. And you'll sew it from the out towards the end, and at the armpit, and then down the sides. And it comes out like this. You can make them big billowy sleeves or really tight normal sleeves, whatever you want to do. It works best with stretch, but the lace works well if you keep it loose around the elbows. I made a dress too, but I've got a huge tutorial on how to make that particular half circle dress, so I'll leave that for the tutorial that'll come out later. Over that dress is this belt. I used 2 kinds of ribbon, and I fold and glued the orange ribbon in half because I felt this was a little thick. This dress pattern always needs belt, so I make the time. And then I use this ribbon. I also painted it with glow-in-the-dark and some of my color shift paint to make it extra nice. I use 2 little squares of Velcro to close it off. You could use glue if you're brave enough, but I elected to also stitch it because I'm not that brave. I don't have great faith in glue. The blue hands weren't working with the doll, so I used 3 layers of white gouache and then 3 layers of green flash color shift to customize them. I did the same to the shoes, though I took the extra step of sanding the areas, and I only did the bows. They were a last minute thought that I had while I was actually designing the final look for my illustration. It's changed a bit, the final doll changed a bit from that, but the idea of adding little touches of green into the illustration led me to add all sorts of green into the outfit, and it just makes it pop. Wiping off the old face-up hurt, but it was necessary. It was so cute, and it was too blue, and the colors were purple and green and orange, and it hurt. But in the end, I'm really glad I did because it looks amazing, but oof. So yeah, I just use goof off and a towel, but as you can see, the eyes had trouble coming off. I apparently used resin to apply them. I forgot that. That's how I made the eyes and the lips shiny, and they didn't really want to come off with the goof off. I eventually worked it hard enough that the resin let go and I could just rub it off, but it took me a while to get there. Also, while I was doing this, the old glue holding the back of the head closed let go, so there's this big old gap. In the end, it's not a problem because I stuff it full of plugs and then use glue to seal it. I think. I can't tell anymore. It was just so stuffed. And now I'm going to start the reroute. I use black yarn streaked with orange and purple. For everything but the part, which I like to keep really thick, I untwist the yarn and then plug with those strands. If you've got a rerouting tool that you're confident with, go at it with that. I don't have one. I'm not probably going to get one. So I use needles and sew them through in a way. I use 2 upholstery needles with larger eyes so I can pull the yarn through. One is straight and one is curved, so I can get to those weird angles. I have two methods to plug that I use pretty interchangeably. They're both really good. It's just depending on what you prefer and what you're doing. For the first method, you get your thread, which I prefer coat thread because it's nice and sturdy. Fold it over so you've got a loop. Send the loop through the eye of the needle. Put the thread, the strand of yarn through the thread loop, and then pull that through the needle eye. Then you take the needle, shove it through one of the hair plug holes, take it out either the neck or a slice in the doll's head, knot it, and then pull it back through. Sometimes when you're pulling the yarn through, the end that you're holding will let go of the main part. This is not unusual. The fibers will part at some point. That's how we get the soft, wispy edges when we brush it out. So usually you would throw these away, but I found a way to use these all the same because I'm frugal, and that leads to my second method. For this one, you start by putting a knot in the yarn. Then you take that thread loop, put it through the needle again, except now you take the needle, put it through the plug hole you're going to do, take the needle away, thread the strand of yarn through that thread loop, and then yank. It'll take it all the way through, and the knot will catch in the hole. This clip shows neither method particularly well. I'm sorry for that. But in my plans for next year, I'm going to do more in-depth videos on each step. And one of them is going to be plugging a head with yarn. So hopefully that'll show up much better. But I hope you understood through my explanation what I'm talking about. After a few days of finger-numbing work, it's not easy on your hands. And if you have your hand issues, not good. But anywho, after that's all done, we brush it out with a pet brush. And this is a long and exhausting process that I want to get through really, really quickly. After brushing it all out, some people will use flat iron to straighten it out, but I'm too fond of this texture to do that, so here it is, all fluffy and fabulous. The neck hole for this head was much, much, much too small for a Ever After High body, so I took a Dremel bit that was the right size of the neck, drilled in, and then used my X-Acto knife to clean it up, and it fits beautifully and poses and all that stuff, and it's just perfect. For the face up, I wanted to give her a cheeky expression because, you know, I just love that kind of thing. I used purple and orange for her makeup, and then made her eyes green, which when I was doing the preliminary sketches for my illustration for this doll, I used green in the eye, and then I had to put green everywhere, and now there's tons of green. but I really like it. It's just, she's so pretty. But yeah, so my process for face-ups that I've developed recently is I've got 2 different kinds of sealant. I've got the classic Mr. Super Clear, but I've also got Montana Gold Spray Paint Plastic Clear Primer, which is pretty amazing. I really love it, but it's not got the greatest tooth for your pencils. So what I do is I lightly sand the face before I even get started and clean it so that there's some grip. And then I do 3 layers of my Montana primer to seal it in and get it ready. Then I go in with my recently rediscovered pastel pencils. I bought these months and months ago. I think I've done 3 dolls since I got these, and I completely forgot they were there. They were staring me in the face, right at eye level on my shelves, and I completely forgot they were there. So I recently found them again, put them in with my watercolor pencils that I use for face-ups, and I use them here. So I use them to do the first few layers, which don't grab well. There's not a lot of definition and a lot of color grab, except for the chalk pastels work really well, but the pencils not so much. So I use it as kind of sketch layers to help me figure out how I want the eyes, what color I wanted, all that stuff. And then I do 2 layers of that, spraying with my Montana primer in between. And then I go in with 1 layer of Mr. Super Clear. This is where I put in really the details and really get it in there to define the eyelashes, any lip lines, the eyebrows, all that stuff. I get that in there. And then the fun part of the primer and the MSC is that they work well together. After I put the layer of MSC, the next layer of primer, Montana primer, still has really good tooth. So I can go in again with my watercolor pencils and they'll get really darken those lines. And then after the next one, it's not so great, but I can still do a little bit of detail and fading in colors. And yeah, that's how I do it. Just 1 layer of MSC versus like I think 8 layers of the primer, and the primer is like 7 times the size of the MSC. It's just huge, so I don't feel bad using lots of it, and it's kind of easier to get hold of too. Not out here in Hawaii, because nothing is easy to get a hold of, but my sister who lives on the mainland, I can send her to a store and she can physically grab the primer, throw it in a mailbox and in a shipping box and send it to me, versus the MSC, which I have to have shipped to her and then she has to ship it to me because they don't like to send from the company directly to Hawaii. It's really weird. You can send it in personal mail, but companies don't want to send it themselves because of, liability and stuff. So yeah, trying to do doll art when you live in a place where they don't like to ship stuff is a pain in the butt. But I'm managing. After the main part of the face is done, I go in with my paints. Of course, white to brighten up the scleras and do the eye shines. But before that, I go in with my special super glittery awesome paints. I use extreme glitter in Jelly Bean Pink for the waterline add some really nice glitter without tinting it too much. And then for the eyes, I use Green Flash and Dragon Flash from my Color Shift paints to do this really nice gradient between the two. I also use Plum Flash to add some extra shine to the lips, and Black Flash to do the pupils and the outer edge of the iris. I also, at the last bit of painting I do, is I use my Dragonfly Glaze in red, violet, blue shift to add some shimmer to her cheeks, blending it in at the edges so you can't really tell. It's just, it adds this little bit of extra shimmer that I really, really like. And then the last step is I go in with big chunky glitter and add it to her face for just the fun. I didn't need to, but I did it anyway because it was fun. Now I take out the pins from the hair burrito that protected the hair that I spent way too long plugging. It was so much work, but it was so worth it. And I will style it at the end to make it into this big black cloud of wonderment. So this video is a bit long for me, so I'm breaking it into two parts. You'll be able to see me create the hat, a broom, and stand in part 2. And until then, here are some really cute pictures. We'll see the full pictures or her full look in part 2. Mahalo for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for part 2. And make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my Instagram where I post all my pictures and stuff, and I'm pretty regular on there at Storycraft Studio, same here. Also my fashion blog over there, Sunset Lemonade. That's a newer one. It's where I post my fashion illustrations, so you can check that out. And again, mahalo for watching. See you in part 2. Aloha!